Joy News Prime.
From wherever you're watching, this is Joy News Prime, your primetime news bulletin here on Joy News on Multi TV. Coming up, government directs immediate release of 1.5 million CDs to settle part of outstanding salary arrears owed teachers in the public sector. But the three teacher unions are refusing to back down on their strike threat, saying it is not good enough. Electoral Commission and other stakeholders contemplate the institution of the first Monday of November in any election year as the date for the holding of general elections. Schoolgirls in Ngo Pram Pram are apparently being impregnated in their dangerous quest to find money to fund their way through school.
And in business, economist expresses negative impact of rebound in crude oil prices on government's finances as Cosmos Energy announces plans to invest more in Ghana's 10 projects.
And then fire gets a section of the Kumasi High Court with implications for proceedings from tomorrow. Also coming up in the bulletin will be sports, entertainment, and Joy News Interactive. Stay tuned. The bulletin is also available across Europe on London-based ABN Television. In Parliament, where 6 ministerial nominees recently appointed by President Mahama in a mini cabinet reshuffle have had the appointments approved. The motion by the Appointments Committee, which was passed by the House, however had reservations about the CVs of some of the nominees.
The approved nominees are Albert Abongo, who is heading to the Upper East region, John Alexander Akon for the Ashanti region, Kweku Riketegan for the Central region, Abdallah Abubakar for the Northern region. The rest are former Chief of Staff Prosper Bani for Interior Ministry and Edwin Nilanti Vanderpoy for the Youth and Sports Ministry. Presenting the report of the Appointments Committee, First Deputy Speaker of Parliament Ebobat Nodro observed that all the nominees did not take time to write their CVs, which leaves a gap and sometimes overlaps or conflicts with other CVs submitted. In the opinion of the committee, the nominees were not diligent enough in the writing of their CVs and warned such attitudes should not be extended to the office they will be holding. Members who contributed to the debate called for the fashioning out of an acceptable template by the Appointment Committee to inform future presentation of CVs.
I believe that even the quality of the CV should determine the caliber of person who is going to be made a minister. Because, indeed, if you are going to apply for employment, which really it is, then your CV must speak for itself. Now, and this is not the first time that this comment has been made, it's been made on many occasions. Even as we speak, I don't know whether those CVs which had gaps had been replaced, because the report does not say. But are we to assume that the committee considered the nominees without really being satisfied with their CVs? Then they have filled this out. But I do not think so. There's a suggestion that there should be a template. And Mr. Speaker, it is the job of the President to ensure that those who he has nominated have CVs which can really stand the test of scrutiny, because that should be the process.
Mr. Speaker, with your indulgence, I quote at Article 78. It says, the President shall appoint ministers with the prior approval of Parliament. With prior approval, the Supreme Court of Ghana have had the opportunity to make a judicial pronouncement on as a shared responsibility. Therefore, for Parliament to be asking the nature of the CV, Parliament has a role in scrutinizing those particular CVs. And Mr. Speaker, we should also be guided by the Constitution, even as we assess nominees from the president. And Mr. Speaker, we should be guided by the fact that Article 94 does define who can be a minister and who cannot be a minister when it defines eligibility to be members of parliament and says that for you to be a minister of state, you must qualify to be a member of parliament. And honor shall be given to the deserving.
Now, ahead of the presentation of the State of the Nation address on Thursday by President John Mahama, the Majority Leader in Parliament, Alvin Bagbin, is announcing changes expected ahead of the presentation. He warns MPs to observe the changes to avoid embarrassment.
The first is that cars would be parked at the main car park. However, honorable members will be allowed to be dropped off in front of the staff entrance. Honorable members of Parliament will not be permitted to be dropped off after the Armed Forces Parade has been formed at 9 a.m. which meant that members should be in before 9 a.m. 2, the eastern gate near the cemetery would be permanently closed for the event, and in fact will remain closed forever. The eastern gate, yes, not only for tomorrow, not only for tomorrow. After that, it will be closed forever. It's a security measure. Honorable members are advised to use the western gate near Kofi Annan ICT Center or the main entrance from the Accra International Conference Center. 3, the door leading to the tunnel or chamber from the Job 600 would be locked at 9:30 a.m. Honorable members are requested to be seated latest by 9:30 a.m. Latest 9:30 a.m. 7, the Chief Justice and her team would be seated by 9:45 a.m. Honorable members are respectfully entreated to rise when the CJ's scale of justice is being led into the chamber. And the last but one, the security personnel would be stationed at appropriate places to ensure the safety of members and the public. The last point, invitation is limited to only honorable members and special guests. Anybody without invitation will not have access to the chamber block or the chamber or public gallery or any of the presence that are considered to be security demanding.
Well, so members of Parliament have been sharing the expectations of Thursday's State of the Nation address.
My expectation is that Ghanaians want the best. Ghanaians want policies that can create jobs for the people of this country. Ghanaians want policies that can create wealth. Now, these are young men, are on betting. They are gambling, and it's very serious for this country. We want policies that can liberate us from total. You see, the ordinary Ghanaian does not believe in the big economic English, the micro and the macro stability. The ordinary Ghanaian believes in good policies that can create wealth and job. This is what we are expecting from His Excellency. Not the normal rhetoric that is, I'll do this, their promise and the failure. We want concrete policies that can help the whole country. That is all. So my expectation is that tomorrow His Excellency should come out with good policies that can drive us to the future.
As a government and as a country, we've gone through some turbulence in terms of energy. So I know one of the 8 critical areas, since January, we have had a stable power. We will hit at the state of affairs of the energy sector and the way forward for the medium to long term.
I remember the President in the last State of the Nation address said that he was going to fix the energy sector. Do you have the feeling that that has been done?
Yes, that's what I'm saying. He will stay the state of affairs and the short to medium term. And that will picture out clearly and tell Ghanaians whether he has fixed it or he's not been able to fix it. You state it clearly. And I know it is a positive signal. And we must know energy is the bedrock for development. Any business that comes need energy. And it will have a multiplier effect on employment. You also look at the road sector, what he has done so far, and what he intends to achieve by the end of his first term. We'll look at the health sector in terms of infrastructure, in terms of equipping the hospitals and health centers, and in terms of manpower.
If I look at it from the point of view of my sector, which is agriculture, the state of Ghana is very dim. It is a state which has an economy which is struggling to survive, and we hope that tomorrow the president will be able to give us some message in the last 8-month stretch of his administration, which will give us some hope. Because so far the performance of the last 9 months, of the last 6-7 years, has not been what Ghanaians were expecting. Ghanaians were expecting to be in jobs when they finish universities. They were expecting that their small businesses will prosper, which has not been the case thanks to Dumso. That factory workers will continue to have their jobs, which they are not having. They are being sacked from their jobs. The latest one being the cocoa processing company. So the prospects are not good for this country, and we are hoping that the president will acknowledge this situation and give us a word of hope for the next 9 months of his administration.
Now, there's a proposal to have the first Monday of November in any election year as the date for the holding of general elections. The date came up strongly for discussion at a meeting of the Constitutional, Legal and Parliamentary Affairs Committee of Parliament. A member of that committee, George Lowe, joins us on the line with details of that. Good evening to you, Mr. Lowe, and thank you for making time for us.
Good evening, Israel, and good evening to your cherished viewers.
All right. Now, can you tell us a bit more about the considerations of the proposal to have the Monday, the first Monday of every November in an election year as the date for the holding of the elections?
Yes, thank you once again, Israel. Israel, you would notice that suddenly everybody is talking about November the 7th as the day of our new date for election. And that happens to be a Monday. It's because there's a proposal that every first Monday in November, in an election year, should be the day on which we hold up our general election. That was what was brought by the Electoral Reforms Committee of the East when they met us today, together with the Attorney General's representatives. And after discussions, we all thought that it was a good idea, it was a great idea, and we have given it a stamp of approval in the interim, because from our committee it goes back to the AG, who is supposed to put it in the package it properly and submit to cabinet. Cabinet will approve, and then it returns to the House, where we'll take custody of it, and then we'll do the amendment of Article 1124, I believe. So basically, that's that is the proposal before us. And like I said, by consensus, the committee has agreed.
Why Monday? Why is Monday such a fantastic day?
Well, they have various reasons for making it Monday. You know, Monday is the day after the weekend.
All right.
And so people who have, give enough people the time to travel back in and out of their constituencies where they have to vote. You know, most people vote outside Accra. So some people, it gives them enough time to go and vote and come back. It also enables the Electoral Commission itself to mobilize over the weekend and ensure that all their materials are deployed properly and all that. It gives us certainty as to the day on which we hold our elections. It's become international best practice. You will see that, for instance, Americans have, I think, the second Tuesday of every November as the day on which they vote. So we are moving away from date to date. And for me, for us, that is instructive, and we think that's a fantastic idea. It's a fantastic proposal that has been brought.
So the proposal is on the table, and you're saying that by consensus, you're almost adopting it. How soon before we get to know that that date has been firmed up?
Well, as I said, I've told you the roadmap is that now that we've held this meeting, now that the committee has been briefed and we have, as it were, accepted their proposal in principle, it goes through, now the Electoral Commission now to submit this proposal to the Attorney General to craft the proper law. When they do, Cabinet approval is needed, so it will go to Cabinet for approval. Then it comes back to the House. We will do the proper amendment because we are the lawmaking arm of government. And then once you receive the amendment is done and as it is, all the processes are completed, then it becomes law. And therefore, first Monday, November, every election year will become the day on which we hold our general election.
Can you give us a fair idea when all these processes will be exhausted?
As I said, some will be done by the Attorney General, and so I will not be able to. We are confident that once he lands on our deck, we will expedite action and make sure that the proper thing is done.
All right, thank you very much, George Low. George Low is a member of the Parliamentary, Constitutional, Legal and Parliamentary Affairs Committee of Parliament. You're watching Joy News Prime. We're taking a break, but we have more stories coming up. Please don't go away. Some retired military officers who have sued government over what they say are unfair deductions in their gratuity on Wednesday protested at the premises of the High Court in Accra.
Today, in the High Court, the proceedings came up again between the retired military officers and also the Chief of Defence Staff and the Attorney General as far as their demand for the deductions in their gratuities to be paid is concerned. So, what transpired in court today?
What happened was that we filed an application for joinder, but unfortunately the registry did not put the docket copy on the docket. So the case had to be adjourned, and it has been adjourned to the 1st of March. That is next week, Tuesday. It is an application to join an additional number of 445 ex-soldiers who also deem it necessary to join because they have a common interest with those who earlier filed the suit in court. So that was what happened.
XW Samuel Dakwa is the spokesperson of the retired military officers.
Personally, my building has not seen paint yet. There are a lot of things that I must do. So if people are saying that because of that they've not been able to complete their buildings, it is true.
It's true. It's true.
Yes.
And your members came around with the red bands and all of that. What does that mean?
This shows how seriousness our mood is. We are very serious, looking for our money, and that is all.
Lawyer Christian has a final comment. He's one of the lawyers who are actually appearing for the retired military officers. Go ahead.
This is a serious national issue. You see, so at this point, all I will do is to appeal to the seat of government that it goes beyond the ordinary retired military officers. It goes down into national security matters. So suffice it to mean that even the military officers do not have a case. The government should intervene. This thing has gone on for 1 solid year. Okay, but for the fact that the lawyers kept on telling them that they shouldn't worry, we'll address the issue at the law court and then appropriate quarters. Imagine military men, ex-military men, okay, hungry ex-military men. Now they are no longer in service. They are not afraid of being fired or not. So imagine if they go and group somewhere. So please, we are calling on the government, we are calling on the president of the land to intervene in this matter.
To be in the we are stronger than those. We are ready.
Fire gutted a section of the Kumasi High Court earlier today, affecting the chambers of 2 High Court judges and the circuit court. The fire service reacted swiftly to bring the fire under control, and no casualty was recorded. But the extent of damage remains unclear. Some of the affected judges have been speaking to Joy News.
There are some you have to go through them after closing. You go through them before you go home, so that tomorrow when you come, you know what you are supposed to be handling. You see, so those dockets, those files are there. They are in our offices. Apart from that, the chairs and the tables, there are chairs and tables to receive visitors. Yes, that is it. Okay, we have what we call drawers, and the judge personal items can be in those drawers. Like for example, this morning I put my phones in the drawer before I went to sit. Yes, thank God my phones are safe for me. Yes, you see. But the way these two offices are bent, you can be sure that if the judges have left any of their personal items, like phones, as for dockets and books in those two offices, you can be sure that they are gone. They have become ash. Yes. If they left any of their personal items, like I'm saying, phones in those two offices, again, you can be sure that the phones are gone.
Will this affect your work in any way?
It will. It will affect the work.
How?
If the files which contains the cases that come before us, if the files are bent, in the meantime, the cases are bent. You cannot go on with those cases. You cannot go on with them. You have to go back? Yes, you have to go back. You have to wait for the lawyers maybe to raise temporary dockets or files and to file fresh matters which will come before the court. So certainly, if the files are bent, it will affect the work of the judge. I was sitting before the fire started, and some of the lawyers will have to come and pull me out of my seat through the other door to my court. That is how I'm here. Yes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Right, so we thank God for his life. But joining us on the phone right now is a lot of Erastus Asare Donko, who's been following the story. Good evening to you, Erastus. Do we have a better assessment of the extent of damage to the court building and how it is likely to affect proceedings from tomorrow?
Well, what we understand is that from tomorrow, the Judicial Service will have to do an evaluation of what has been lost and its impact on cases that will be brought in tomorrow. And so from tomorrow, they'll be able to know whether they can go ahead with the cases or they have to wait, put a freeze on those cases and then do them subsequently. Just like you had the judge say, these are dockets into cases that have been lost. These are case files. These are records kept at the court, found in these chambers, lost to the fire. And so if you have your case in this manner, it will be difficult to proceed unless the lawyers have a backup plan, which I learned in many cases you do not have. And so it will be very difficult to proceed with those cases. They have to take their time, put a freeze on the cases. If you're on remand, you have to stay there for some time before they generate additional details and go ahead with the proceeding.
All right, thank you very much, Lava Firm's Erastus Asare Donko. The New Patriotic Party parliamentary aspirant in the Korle-Klottey constituency, Ni Noi Norte, has devised a rather controversial campaign strategy for the party's February 27 primaries. He is asking delegates to vote for Ega Indigene. Ni Noi Norte tells Joy News that will be the best way to ensure the party defeats the NDC in the constituency. His main contender has however condemned the use of the tribal card.
Speaking to Joy News, the disputed parliamentary candidate Ni Noi Norte said that would be the best way to ensure the party defeats the NDC in the general election.
This constituency is a traditional seat. The name Klottey Korle itself is traditional. Klottey is the river in Osu, and Kole is the river in Atupai, the side. And that's why the constituency is combined of two paramountcies, the Osu paramountcy and the Atupai paramountcy. Look, majority of the people in this constituency are traditional people. This is a traditional Ga seat. You get what I'm saying? This is like a typical Menchia seat, where you are asking a Ga man to go and contest an election in Menchia. Of course, he will flop. Because the traditional, the kingmakers and the traditional people in the constituency would want a member of parliament who will understand their side of the story, like who understand the traditions of the constituency, who will know the do's and don'ts and everything of the constituency, who can represent the interest of the traditional people as well in the constituency. Because trust me, developing constituencies like this, you really need the traditional leaders involved, because this is a constituency where majority of the people listen to the traditional leaders.
The opposition party is set to reorganize primaries in the Klote-Kole constituency following the controversial election of Ninorte last year. The former constituency chairman will be coming up against renowned lawyer Philip Addison in the crucial polls. Campaign manager for Mr. Addison, Norman Tete, condemned the tribal politics being encouraged by Nino Inote and urged delegates to ignore him.
It is actually an unfortunate statement. That statement is totally flawed, and I feel it's totally out of place in the sense that it should not be encouraged or countenanced anywhere. I would even plead with your media houses not to carry such a story, because it is a story of divisiveness, and I feel it should be condemned the moment it was even spoken by him. Now, why would you even want to start anything to do with tribalism? First and foremost, I am not against that because Philip is different. No, Philip is Ga indigenous from Kinkanwe. If you would plead with, if you would allow me, but then because we are one family, sometimes certain things need not come out. But let me just say this: if you can, let us verify from Nino. His name actually is Vincent Valentino Eminapao Eniampong. That is his actual name. Ask whether he swore an affidavit to change his name from that to Nino Enote. Ask him. If you are talking of a true Ga indigene, Philip hails from Kinkanwe.
Meanwhile, the vice chairman of the Klote-Kole constituency, Al-Aji Aliu Kabe, has described the move by Ni Ajay Taria and Philip Addison as an act of cowardice.
Watching Joy News Prime, we're taking a break. When we come back, we bring you business news. Right, so in business news tonight, the issue of crude oil prices is coming up again. Emmanuel is here to tell us a lot more about it. So when we have crude oil prices tumbling, there are concerns. When they're rising, it's not good for the concerns.
Country. Exactly. And you realize that just about a week or so ago, some members of OPEC decided, and other non-members decided to freeze production just to shore up the prices a bit. And surprisingly, it started going up, which means good news for producers, young producers like Ghana. But unfortunately, Ghana is a net importer of crude oil, which means that we equally need more money to import.
So we import more than we actually produce.
Exactly. Yeah. And an economist is saying that we shouldn't be happy after all, because it's just early stages of price recovery.
You take it away.
All right. Okay, so time for business. And it might not be all that rosy for government as crude oil prices on the international market pick up. The price of the commodity has been rising following the decision by some oil-producing countries to freeze production. More in this Business Desk reports.
The price of crude oil on the international market is now trading at around $33 a barrel. The over 50% drop in prices in recent months has thrown Ghana's 2016 budget out of gear, forcing the finance minister to consider reviewing the estimates. Some analysts say the current rebound in oil prices is good for the country, but economist Peter Quote holds a different view.
Import oil, and therefore when oil prices increase,
increase. Our oil import bill is likely to go up, unless, of course, we also process some of the oil we produce, so that we'll, in net effect we'll gain. Otherwise, it depends on the balance between how much we import and how much oil we export.
So it looks like we shouldn't be too much excited by this development that prices of crude oil are picking up.
Exactly, and actually, if you look at the numbers, you will see that our import bill for oil even outstrips how much oil revenue we derive. So the picking up, we really have to be careful, cautious about the way we celebrate this development.
According to figures from the Bank of Ghana, the country earned about $1.9 billion from crude exports last year, compared to the over $2 billion it spent importing crude oil. In a separate development, Cosmos Energy has announced plans to invest some $200 million in infrastructure projects in the oil sector. The funds will mainly be directed towards the country's second biggest oil field, that is the 10 projects. Cosmos becomes the second oil company after Tullow to assure governments and stakeholders in the oil sector the current challenges with crude oil prices will not lead to any drastic cuts in investments.
Now, the Chief Executive of Dalex Finance, Ken Thompson, has reiterated the call for government to channel the nation's resources into developing the agri sector. He said this at the public forum organized by the Chartered Institute of Marketing Ghana, CIMG, in partnership with Dalex Finance.
According to Ken Thompson, Ghana has a comparative advantage in the agri sector and should therefore take urgent steps to modernize cultivation of agro products and especially add value for exports. He noted that focusing on producing processed and semi-processed goods for exports would facilitate the country's economic recovery process. Mr. Thompson spoke with Joy Business after the CIMG Public Forum.
It's not conceivable that Ghana can become an exporter of manufactured goods in the short to medium term. It's not conceivable. I can't say it. I mean, maybe that could be subject to debate, but it's not conceivable. What we should focus on is our comparative advantage, and I kept saying that, you know, we all know what to do. And if we don't do it, one day our children will suffer. And I said that the sins of the father shall be visited upon the children. We all know what to do. What we're not doing, I don't know. And there are people that are more knowledgeable in these matters than I am. But Ghana can only go forward if we focus on things where we have a comparative advantage. And the areas where we have comparative advantage is agriculture. And we should focus on producing processed and semi-processed goods for export. We could even look at including other services like tourism. That is the only way we are going to generate foreign exchange for ourselves.
20 local printing firms are to benefit from a commercial and technical skills training program between June and December this year. The program, dubbed Professional Print Excellence, is a partnership between non-profit organization Invest in Africa and Imaging Solutions, leader of Canon. Now, country manager for Invest in Africa, Sam Brandful, is hopeful this would not only boost local production, but also make the beneficiaries more competitive, both locally and internationally. He spoke to Joy Business about the selection process.
We have a criteria. The criteria is that first and foremost they must be on the Africa Partner Pool. Secondly, they must have a size in terms of employees between 3 and 100. Then they must also, I think more importantly, be companies that are committed to self-improvement, and therefore they're committed to being part of the training program. We will have a team that will look at the applications, so of course they have to apply. We'll look at the applications, look at the ones that fall into the right fit in terms of companies with capacity, not already up there in terms of the printing companies that we have in this country, but the ones that demonstrate the potential to grow.
Still in business, non-bank financial institutions have been advised to reposition themselves for easy identification by clients. It follows the latest research which reveals most clients do not appreciate the difference between microfinance companies and savings and loans companies. This is set to cause unnecessary panic in times of crisis in the microfinance sector. Speaking with Joy Business after launching, the research consultant Ernest Sanyo Jandu said savings and loans companies could reverse the trend by distinguishing themselves.
There have been a lot of activities in the microfinance landscape, apart from savings and loans companies providing microfinance services as well as their other services. We have found over the years that there have been a lot of other actors on the market. We have money lenders, we have microfinance companies, we have financial NGOs, and there is the thinking that some activities in the industry have not really been very helpful. So there is the need to find out the extent to which these activities have had effect on savings and loans companies. Now, what we found out is that indeed, as far as the public is concerned, they don't really know the differences among the various providers. So a woman who is a trader or a man who is a farmer needs support from a financial institution does not really know whether there's a rural bank or it's a microfinance company or it's a savings and loans. What he knows is that it's an institution offering services. We found out, interestingly, that the microfinance companies and other providers are equally providing services that are good for the industry. What we have noted, however, is that there is a need for all the provider categories to really position themselves for the public to understand what they are doing. Because if they don't understand, then the practices that may not be too good in one provider category may be transferred to another category. So you find, for example, that you may not have a savings and loans company that has done things that the public is not happy with. But because the public doesn't really know the difference between a savings and loans company and other providers, they would actually assume that the whole market is behaving that way.
And the Chief Executive Officer of the Institute of Certified Economists Ghana, Daniel Amate Enim, has called on ECOWAS countries to step up efforts to integrate their economies. He says that is also key in the quest to mitigate the impact of falling commodity prices on ECOWAS countries, which are mostly commodity export-oriented. Mr. Amate Enim had earlier proposed adding value to commodities as a way to overcome the current situation. He tells Joy Business the next big step after this would be for ECOWAS countries to trade their final products among themselves. He explains why that is important.
The integration of our various economies within the sub-region is key. ECOWAS should take the bold step and integrate the economy. We should move from the theoretical models that we have in the treaties and begin to practicalize by trading among ourselves. Doing that, what it means is that we'll rely less on Europe and America for the exportation of our raw materials. And even when we add value to it, what it means is that we are able to get more value in terms of revenue than just exporting the raw materials to the global.
And that wraps up the business segment for tonight. Thank you very much for your company, and do keep watching for more news updates. My name is Emmanuel Abuaji Riafi. Good evening.
Watching Joy News Prime. Now, ahead of the 2016 elections this November, the country's security agencies have been advised to exhibit a high level of professionalism in handling crowd and mob situations to avoid bloodshed and needless brutalization of people. The call by Amnesty International is largely informed by findings in the 2015-2016 report on human rights, which was launched in Accra on Wednesday. It reveals how millions of people are suffering enormously at the hands of state and armed groups, while governments also claim the protection of human rights is a threat to security, law, and other national values.
A situation where the youth can take the law into their own hands. So we know that the police are very professional and they can handle crowd and they can handle mob actions. We just want to ensure that police do not go beyond their borders to maim people or kill people when they are handling crowd. We also want to place emphasis on the fact that every individual has rights, and when Ghana or government or city authorities decide to move people from one place to the other, it is important for that to be done with human face, so people do not suffer unnecessarily, because people who live in slums, for example, are the very poor, and if we take action and we don't take precaution, we are just increasing their poverty level. I believe that Ghana will continue to exhibit that tendency to maintain peace. And we are encouraging the security and then the police in particular to ensure that nobody's life is lost, because one life lost is too many to accept because of election.
The Director General of the Police Intelligence and Professional Standards Bureau, PIPS, DCOP David Ampabeni, who addressed the media at the event, stated the police will remain focused on maintaining order to ensure a free and fair poll in November.
This unit was formed by the hierarchy of the Ghana Police Service. No one forced us, no one asked us, but we saw it that it was necessary for us to have a unit like that to check the excesses of our own personnel. And the issue about the demonstration, let my vote count, I think you mentioned it. Yeah. This issue, the point has been belabored. But no, the police are there to ensure and to protect life and property. So we meet with the people, always that's what we do, to discuss, bring all this to the fore, that we have to take certain rules. All of us agree to the rules, because we further that we should protect the demonstrators as well as the officials. But most often, the demonstrators, they want to do their own thing and go outside the rules that have been earmarked. It is true, there may be excesses, but let's also, as we are advising the police, we also take the message to the organizers. Let us all agree to do one thing within the confines of the law. Using of tear gas to disperse demonstrations, etc., as we said about our population, sometimes become necessary when we see stark destruction facing the police.
Government and teacher unions have reached an agreement to pay an amount of 1.5 million cedis to cover the arrears of salary arrears of teachers for 2012. The validation team is also working due to work on persons due arrears for the subsequent years for payment to be effected. The agreement comes 3 days after the teachers threatened to go on strike the 29th of February if their grievances are not addressed. Now, though there's an agreement in place, the teachers are not calling off their strike threat yet. Kwabna Hosuan Pechum reports.
After 3 days of negotiations and trading of words by the Education Ministry and the teachers on whether indeed the latter is due any arrears, the two parties agreed that a validation team is set up to weed the teachers' payroll of persons not eligible to receive the arrears. The team is to submit their report by the end of February.
The government representative, trade union and the audit service will move out of sight to validate all data in respect of salary arrears and other allowances and submit a report on verified data to government for payment purposes. That the team going offside should validate in particular 2013-2014 salary arrears of newly recruited teachers from the colleges of education, which has been outstanding, and submit report on it by Monday, 29 February 2016 for consideration and payment as a matter of priority. The government will with immediate effect release an amount of 1.5 million to GS for payment in respect of 2012 arrears, transfer grants and other allowances in respect of that. Depending on the report of the validation exercise, the teacher union will review their intended industrial action accordingly, to which they had served notice to government and to the National Labour Commission. And accordingly, that with this negotiation ongoing, the teacher union are to keep the peace on the teachers' labor front.
The teachers, however, warn it is not time to jubilate yet. General Secretary of the Ghana National Association of Teachers, David Oforia-Champon, tells Joy News the threat of strike still remains.
Yeah, it's on hold. we have set some deadlines. We are expecting some amount of work to be done by Monday. If it gets to that level, then we have no cause to.
Are you happy with the 1.5 million for the 2012 arrears?
It's a step. We have arrears over 4 years, and 2012 is being paid immediately. We believe that is okay.
And you believe in the ministry to uphold their word?
Sure. If they don't, the agreement indicates what we can do. I believe they will not rely on their word.
For Joy News, Kwabena Usu-Amprechum.
Pupils of the Wenchi Local Authority Model 2C Primary School in the Brahafo region study in a makeshift structure. That's not exactly a strange phenomenon, especially considering the part of the country the school is located. The situation naturally affects teaching and learning, and both the teachers and pupils would wish something is done about it as soon as possible. Interestingly, there have been some efforts to solve the infrastructure challenges, except the projects have stalled. Correspondent Nestor Kafiajuma spent some time with the pupils and reports.
Lower primary pupils of Wenchi LA Model 2C Primary School have been putting up in this makeshift structure made of aluminium roofing sheets for some years now. The aluminium sheets classroom produces excessive heat, especially mid-mornings. Pupils have no choice but to concentrate more on fanning themselves rather than on the lessons. Sometimes, the lower primary is forced to suspend classes during the rainy season when the clouds begin to form. Ironically, construction of a 3-unit classroom with office and store, which started during former President Kufuor's first term in office, remains uncompleted. We gathered that this building was initiated by the then District Chief Executive of Wenchi, Joe Dankwa. Work is almost complete, except for roofing, plastering, fitting of doors, windows, and perhaps painting. 4 of Joe Dankwa's successors, including the current one, Alhaji Hakibu Dauda, have failed to complete the 3-unit classroom block for the pupils. The pupils describe the conduct of the Wenchi Municipal Assembly towards provision of adequate infrastructure as lackadaisical, as the school is just about 100 meters away from the assembly and they are aware of the situation. They are therefore calling on the central government to instruct the Wenchi Municipal Assembly to get the stalled project completed immediately to enable them have conducive learning atmosphere. When the sun shines, it is difficult to learn in this structure. We always have to fan ourselves with our books. It makes it difficult to concentrate. The cattle sometimes comes to sleep in our class and defecate. Most often, we spend the classes hours scrubbing and waiting for the class to dry before we can have lessons. We also suspend classes whenever the clouds form.
We sweat a lot, and whenever it rains, we have to join other classes. There are times we come to school only to meet cow dunks in our class.
The teachers in the school have declined to comment on the issue for fear of being victimized by education authorities. They say the MCE for Wenchi, Hakibu Dauda, visited the school and promised to get the project completed, but nothing has been done. Nesta Kafuya-Joma filed this report from the Bonafo region.
We'll be back with international news. Well, if you want to know what's coming up on Joy News Interactive, don't worry, Aisha is here to tell us all about it. Good evening to you, Aisha.
Good evening, Israel. How are you doing?
I'm good. How about you?
I'm fine. And coming up tonight on your most interactive segment, it's been 50 years since Ghana's first president, Dr. Kwame Nkrumah, got overthrown from power. Now, as a country, would you say we are in a better place?
That the man had, building silos and the Temamoto and all this, like we should have advanced, but look at where we are.
And would you judge an ambitious teenager who sells her body to fend for her education in the face of abject poverty?
Yes. It's not right. Even our culture doesn't tell us to sell our body for education. I mean, you can still sell, you can still do menial jobs to further your education. We all do it. Now the system is so free that you can go to work and then still go to school.
Now join me within the hour for details of the stories and your comments on some other trending stories of the day. My name is Aisha Barima. Remember, the segment is brought to you by Airtel.
All right, thank you very much, Aisha. But the story about the kids having to, go fishing or going to actually have sex with people just so they can get fish is coming up in the bulletin. That comes up in just about 3 minutes, so you want to stay tuned for that. But we also have entertainment and sports coming up in the second hour of the bulletin. Stay tuned. Now time now for a recap of our top stories. Government has directed immediate release of 1.5 million cedis to settle part of outstanding salary arrears owed teachers in the public sector. But the 3 teacher unions are refusing to back down on their strike threat, saying it's not good enough. The Electoral Commission and other stakeholders are contemplating the institution of the first Monday of November in any election year as the date for the holding of general elections. In business, economists expresses negative impacts of rebound in crude oil prices on government finances as Cosmos Energy announces plans to invest more in Ghana's 10 project this year. In fact, that's a section of the Kumasi High Court with implications for proceedings from tomorrow. Now, the dream of many young girls at Ewiam in the Ningo Pram Pram constituency of Greater Accra is to have access to education, which should help set them up for life. It, however, turns out only a few make it past the basic school level, largely due to the dehumanizing levels of poverty in the area, as a result of which the girls trade sex for fish to sell and make enough money to go to school. Joy News' Kwete Nate visited the community and tells the story of 4 final year pupils of Ewiam Basic School who have dropped out of school after they were impregnated by fishermen.
Emily, as we'll call her, is a JHS 3 pupil of the Ewiam Basic School in Ningo, and she's 1 month pregnant. She would have sat for this year's BEC if she was still in class, but she and 3 of her classmates have dropped out of school because they could not stand the shame of being pregnant. What pushed you to get pregnant?
Because I'm hungry as well.
So usually you go to school hungry?
Yes.
So your parents are not taking care of you, that's why you had to rely on this man?
Yes.
Has the man accepted responsibility?
No.
The pangs of hunger made it difficult for her to concentrate in class. She gave in to the sexual advances of a fisherman who gave her fish to sell for upkeep and became pregnant.
I go to school, they don't give me money.
Who doesn't give you money?
My parents.
How much do you need to use in school? Why would you want to be back in school again?
Because I want to come somewhere in future.
What's your dream? What do you want to become in future?
I want to become an accountant.
What?
Accountant.
You want to become an accountant? Headmaster of Ewiam Basic School, Solomon Gauno, describes the rate of girls dropout as worrying. He says at least 10 girls are unable to continue their education every year due to pregnancy.
As at now, speaking to you, 4 are pregnant. And what is causing that is there are some villagers in the community who have been doing light fishing, overnight fishing. And the children themselves sometimes tell us they are catering for themselves. And sake of that, the men have been luring them with fish, and it is causing the downfall of the community.
These 4 girls who are pregnant, are they still in school?
They stopped coming to the school because of the pregnancy. They are now in the house. They are feeling shy to meet with their colleagues in the classroom.
And is it something that is a regular trend here, that every year you have children getting pregnant?
Exactly so. Every year about 10 of our girls will go home with pregnancy. So it is a very hurting thing.
Assembly member for Ahwiam, Francis Adochu, agrees. He tells me the situation has become alarming. So as a first step in addressing the problem, the community leaders will involve the police to arrest men who impregnate young girls.
I was having a discussion with the PT executives so that we should work as a team to make a headway out. Because if we don't take critical measures now, surely next year it will be more. So the final decision we have taken is if we get to know the boys that involved in that, surely we are going to send them to the police.
Perhaps those hurting the community more are the parents who do not provide their children with money for food and leave them to resort to other means, like Emily, whose dream of becoming an accountant is dashed for now. From Ahwiam, I'm Kwete Nati, Joy News.
Right, there have been some back and forth between the vice presidential candidate of the New Patriotic Party, Dr. Mahamudu Bawumia, and government regarding government's achievements as recorded in the Green Book, or the much publicized Green Book. Now, there was some statements, or Dr. Bawumia challenged the government's claims in one breath, or in one address, and then government reacted. Now, Dr. Bawumia has reacted again to government's reaction, and I have with me in the studio Evans Mensah, who's been reading through the posts. A lot of it has been taking place on social media, and he's going to be telling us about it. Good evening to you, Evans, and thanks for joining. So there was the Dr. Bawumia had an address. He spoke to
UDS
some
students.
UDS students at the WA campus, and he challenged what government has been claiming in its Green Book. And essentially, the crux of his argument was that government has borrowed about $37 billion, but the projects that it has advertised in the Green Book come up to just about $7 billion. And he's wondering where the money has gone to. And then government reacted. And then Dr. Bawumia has reacted. Tell us what
it's interesting that all this is playing out on social media, because Dr. Bawumia's, of course, initial address was at UDS, and then this sort of spiraled and took a life of his own when government decided to then respond to him earlier today in an official statement.
Because it gained some traction, actually. I mean, a lot of people were talking about it.
I mean, the Communications Ministry will not simply issue a statement comprehensively if they didn't feel that they had the need to. So they issued a statement this morning, and then Bawumia goes onto his Facebook page and then reacts. Now, the key points of controversy surrounds something that we've been talking about for a while. It's about how much money has government borrowed since they took power in 2009 was a fundamental question. And the second one was about what value should we place on what they had published in their Green Book, and they claimed
what they had used the money
what they used the monies for. Dr. Bawumia's claim essentially is that the government had borrowed something in excess of $37 billion since 2009, and that what they claim they have used the monies for only amounts to $7 billion. So where's the rest of the money, he's questioning. Now, government's point is that it's not true. Now, some strong words have been exchanged over this.
Is government saying that it hasn't borrowed $37 billion?
Well, government says that's not true, because the government points him to the budget of 2016, which was read last year by the finance minister, in which it says that the Minister of Finance clearly indicated that the total national debt stood at 92 million cedis. This was made up of 54 million, etc., etc., And then it goes on to state, though, that issued in Accra on Tuesday, February 2015, says 14.3 million. And that also that this represents our entire national debt since independence and includes 8.1 billion bequeathed President Atta Mills. And government is playing with this quite carefully, trying to segregate the loans over the years and saying, well, we got 8.1 billion from administrations before us in 1990, 2009. And then a huge chunk, remember the president himself on the platform. So there's a politics about how much we've borrowed. Now, Dr. Bamia's point is, and it's a very interesting statement he makes, that government itself doesn't know how much they've borrowed, but, and this is an interesting quote, what is clear to me is that members of this government handed the mandate to manage our destinies as a nation do not read. That's what he's saying, that the government simply does not read. And
that's
so,
a jab.
Exactly, are unable to tell how much they borrowed since 2009. Government says, listen, what you're saying is not true. In fact, government says you haven't read, pardon me, the 2016 budget, and that's why you're making these claims. Bawumia comes back and says, he points to the catalog of loans that we've taken over the last few years under the NDC government, and still insists that if you put the amount of money vis-a-vis what we spend monies on infrastructure, etc., only comes to 7 billion. So where is the rest? Government will probably say a lot of them had gone into payment of salaries, etc., etc., that not everything goes into infrastructure
projects.
Again, after Bawumia had released a statement, the second statement, after the government's first statement, Omanibama comes again, though.
Oh, yeah.
In the last few hours, on his Facebook, now says, Dr. Bawumia runs away from the MPP's abysmal record with the exclamation mark. We referred him to page 15 of the 2000 manifesto, where they promised modernization and extension of railway network and construction to the northern region. No response. The point Dr. Omanibama is making on his Facebook is pointing them to 2000 manifesto. That's when they came into power, and saying you also made promises then that you have failed to sort of realize or implement, and so was a big deal there. Some may suggest that, well, the fact that they failed to achieve something more than a decade ago doesn't necessarily mean that a new government shouldn't be keeping their promises. I mean, I don't know whether this ends it, because Osambo appears to have had the final say on this with his latest post that he put on 4 hours ago.
Who knows? Dr. Bawumia
might come back, because Barima is throwing a challenge that he should respond, for example, to issues that he failed to implement in their 2004 manifesto. Quote, preparatory work towards the expansion. Project to link Ghana by rail to its northern neighbors of Burkina Faso, Niger, Mali. We know that hasn't been done. And this is an NPP promise. Dr. Bawumia is saying that, okay, you want to point and punch holes in our promises? Well, this is a hole in your promise in 2014. Respond to it. We'll see whether Bawumia will take the bait tomorrow.
Thank you very much, Evan Smith, for joining us for some social media political analysis as far as what Dr. Bawumia and Dr. Edward Omanibama, the communications minister, has been talking about. We're taking a break. When we come back, we'll bring you entertainment. Please stay tuned.
Entertainment news is brought to you by
Miss G is here. It's time for entertainment.
Hello, Israel.
Yeah. You know, you're the only person who can, you have the freedom to dress anyhow.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know.
And you do that.
Oh, do I?
Yeah.
Okay.
I have to look very formal.
Okay. Because you're a serious-minded guy,
Well, the news is serious business.
Exactly. Entertainment is, to entertain.
That's what I'm talking about.
Okay, so that's it. Okay, so.
Hold on. Do you have Shatawale's new release?
Oh, you can trust me.
Okay, good. So let's take the story from there.
Okay, we should take you from there. So everybody has been waiting for it. Just when I left here, I got downstairs. The song was on my phone.
That was last night.
Exactly. The song
was on your phone. Who sent it to you?
Hey, Charlie. Hey, this Miss G here.
Himself.
Yeah, it doesn't matter, you know. The song found its way to my phone.
Right.
And the song actually was just reiterating what he had posted on Facebook. Now, a lot of people have
Which we said we didn't understand, actually.
Exactly. So maybe if you take a listen to the song now, you'll get it much better.
All right, let's hear it.
You can tell me nothing, I will always move you wrong. Say I'm not worth it. Watch how me I go end up. Why should I always apologize for the monster I become? No one ever apologized for making me this way. Go ahead and doubt me. Go ahead talk about me. Go ahead spread the rumor. I don't deal with lies. Yeah, I will always prove you wrong.
Okay, Miss G, I'm not a patois person. I really don't get it.
Okay.
But because you lived in Nigeria and you can speak the Nigerian, I'm sure you have a better grasp of the patois.
Okay.
What exactly is he saying?
So he's saying that he'll always prove people wrong. Actually, he didn't say who exactly. He says, I'll always prove you wrong. Why do I have to always apologize for the monster I've become when nobody apologizes to me for making me that monster?
Okay. So those were comments on his Facebook page. Is there anything else he's saying in the song that he hasn't posted on his Facebook?
Basically, all that he said in the song, and he keeps talking about, is proving people wrong. Now, saying Shatter fans should keep tight, and then he'll prove them wrong. He's never been a failure. He won't be a failure. It's just a repetition of all that, you know, in the song.
Okay, so we still don't understand. We have to wait a lot.
Well, you see,
the Shatter fans should wait. So
he knows that there are better things ahead for them, and so he's not apologizing. Basically, that is it. And we know why this song, means a lot to Shatter fans, and of course to us who talk entertainment, because we know that he has been asked to apologize by an entity that gives out awards to Ghanaian musicians, that's Charterhouse, and they said as part of the requirement to get him on, he needs to render a public apology. And then the song comes just in the evening when they had said that. So it's not coincidental. Nobody thinks that it can be.
I mean, I'm sure it's clear he did the song especially to communicate to them. So.
Exactly. Right. Okay, so Shatawale and Samini are in the news. Now these two have not been seen performing on the same stage for quite a while. What I hear is that Samini is called for a show and Shatawale is on. That show is not having Samini on, and vice versa. But this Independence holiday, we are going to have them on 3 different stages.
Together.
Exactly. So it starts from the 4th of March, which is the Ghana at 59 concert, which of course Multimedia is part of. Now, yesterday we had them have a lyrical war. Can you imagine? Well, let's take a listen to the songs.
Stop hyping.
Shatawale and Samini for years now have not been seen perform on the same platform, but now all that is about to change, because the two will mount one stage on 3 different occasions this Independence holiday, including the much talked about Ghana at 50 concert happening at the Accra Sports Stadium on March 4th. The show, which is hyped as a battleground for the Ghanaian and Jamaican dancehall artists to exhibit their prowess, will see Samini come face to face with Elephant Man as Shatter clashes with Alkaline. The two ahead of the concert have released songs perhaps to show their preparedness for the show, or is it promotional as is being suggested by some? Take a listen to Shatter's song called Eche, meaning long time.
Lyrical war, me not come here so fi fight I see. Oh, that's it. Listen, say him a veteran, funny. Olu, sit down and stop bragging. Left the youth to do the performing. Change your format, you can call me. Bona, mini, noni. God bless your chasing, boko mommy. Waboy dance, I'll catch a la bombing. Imale, yabi a la gummy. When it comes to performance, boy, you like lyrics. Listen, dance a line and no gimmicks. Lyrics are pure just like AK bullets.
And here's Samini's hashtag anytime.
Up on the miming artist them, off key wrong timing artist them, offbeat wax styling artist them, killing all faking artists them. Man a top notch, we do it constantly, we no need no stopwatch. Jordan shatter, tell them to stop watch. We big balls them in now we drop crotch. Samini ready anytime, lyrical war. We ain't backing down, wallahi. Samini ready any day. See we stand tall, we ain't backing down, wallahi.
But which of these two dancehall artists do you think takes the crown for their lyrical skills?
Man, but some of the lyrics, I mean, contained in the Shatawale's bits. Yeah,
serious, you know, like Olu, you know.
Olu. I mean, you ask him old man.
Exactly.
And then Obehu. Your time has passed, you're expired.
I thought it was, you know, just lyrical war, but this one came strong at Samini.
But Samini's bits was quite, you know, gentlemanly.
You know, that's Samini's style. And actually what happened was that Samini did the song first and traveled. Currently he's in Dubai. And he posted on Instagram that when he heard that somebody had replied him, he almost cut his trip short to come back and reply. Until he learned that it was a small boy.
Oh no.
You know, and I decided to relax. You know,
this tape is gonna go on for a
while,
while.
But I can't wait to see them both on the same stage.
Yeah,
they can pull a surprise, you know. Okay, so Waisa was in court today, and apparently the video evidence that we've all been waiting for was brought by the prosecutors. And now, when the video was tendered in and they watched the video, Waisa's lawyer Jerry Agbenovo decided to cross-examine the prosecutor, and Beverly of Hits FM recounted what happened in court.
If he was at the event that night, and he said no, he wasn't there, and he asked them if he was aware that there are softwares that some of these entertainers use, you know, some of those who do movie filmmakers and musicians use in their videos to, you know, make people believe things that are not real in them. And he says that he's not a musician, so he can't tell, or he's not a movie maker, so he can't tell. And then he went ahead to ask him whether he is aware that some of these entertainers do things like this to, you know, shoot their ratings up. And he cited One Love the Kubolo, what happened on TV, though it wasn't live, they showed him on TV, and he said that after One Love did that, his ratings shot very high. So it's possible that Waisa was also doing that for his ratings to shoot high. And he asked them if whether or not he has seen that after the video, after everything that went on that night, it's like yes, everybody is talking about Waisa. He's trending everywhere. So maybe that could be the reason he did that. And so he begged for the courts to adjourn the case, but they didn't. And the judge asked him to go and come for a short break for 5 minutes. When he returned, the investigators still insisted that they had a source who gave them the video. So he's very sure that it was his manhood. They asked him that he invited Waisa to the police station. They asked him when Waisa came, did he, you know, demand to see his manhood and be sure that what they have in the video is the exact size of what's in his trousers. And then he said that they didn't do it.
Okay, I still find the back and forth that's taking place in court quite interesting, because Waisa himself has apologized for his conduct.
And then come back to tell us that.
So what conduct did he apologize for?
No, well, you know, that's a question we've always put to him. Then he said, okay, Ghanaian said he showed something, so he apologized for showing something. But as to whether that was real or fake is why he's in court. That's his recent submission when you ask him that. That he will be back in court on the 22nd of March, and so we hope that finally we'll get a verdict, and then we'll know.
We can get this over and done. But I thought actually the lawyer will probably make him apologize in court. That'll be all right. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, and Entertainment News was brought to you by Airtel, the smartphone network. Okay.
Entertainment News was brought
Right, the man who loves sports is here to tell us what's happening in sports. Good evening. I like your tie.
Thanks. I was about to say Mr. Blue Israelite.
I like your tie. Okay, so let's talk about last night's game.
Yeah, sure.
Everybody else was hoping that
Arsenal was
going to get a drubbing.
Yeah. And it followed the regular.
There wasn't a drubbing.
No, not at all. 2-0. I mean, pretty respectable scoreline, if you ask me. But for me, what is important is that Barcelona have been able to secure the win, which takes them to their stronghold, which is the Camp Nou.
Heads up, you know,
obviously. So right now, I mean, Arsene Wenger has stated that, look, they are 95%, out of this, Barcelona is 95% done with this fixture. So let's see how it goes. I mean, if Arsenal is able to stage a fight back in the Camp Nou, it will be one of the biggest sports stories. Actually, the biggest sports story.
But they were able to, I think they performed quite well because they were able to hold their own for quite a while until they.
But Israel, you see, I told you that sometimes hype just denies us of the real fun. Look, the game between Juventus and Bayern Munich was the game to watch.
You thought it was more interesting.
Yes, it produced 4 goals.
Concentrating on
4 goals, and there was a massive fight back from Juventus after Bayern Munich had gone ahead by 2 goals. A wonderful strike was scored by Ian Robben, if I may say.
Right. Let's get on to today's game.
Of course,
Manchester City.
Yes, of course. So Manchester City, after that very heavy drubbing at the weekend against at the hands of Chelsea, have now woken up and they are now leading by 2 goals.
They say with a different squad.
Well.
They had to hold that squad just
for
so
tonight.
Then so there are 2 goals.
So that is surely paying off now. Manchester City are leading Dynamo Kiev by 2-0. Atletico Madrid and PSV Eindhoven are playing to a goalless drawn game. It's 44 minutes, just on the stroke of halftime.
Yeah.
So I guess that we'll be doing some more updates as we go along. But right now it's Manchester City 2, Dynamo Kiev 0. And of course, it was the man Sergio Aguero who got the goals going for Manchester City. All right, so we'll continue to do some more here. And Israel, we'll be talking about the newly appointed Youth and Sports Minister, because his appointment has been, approved by the the vetting committee of the vetting committee of Parliament.
Even though they were saying that they had issues with their CVs and the way they put their CVs together.
Well,
that's for another discussion.
Of course,
in sports, we're looking at what they're bringing to the table.
Definitely, right? And there's been this trend of high turnover at the sports ministry. And this is one area that many of his fellow parliamentarians are concerned about. One of them is Dr. Akoto Osei, who is the MP for Tafo Pankrono constituency.
Friend, a former player, like all of us who are former soccer players. Yes, go to the Oberlin College website. www.oberlin.edu. Go to Achimota School, the administration board. You see, they are Sportsman of the Year. Center forward. Because you should know that Welbeck's son, his father was my colleague at Achimota soccer team. This is obvious. But I pray for you because that ministry is very tricky. Very, very tricky. No, my good friend Olanyo Agra was swept. My good friend Mubarak was swept. My good friend here was not swept. Twice. But it looks like it's an area that, as much as we require further progress, it's also a very tricky sport. So I pray that the people there will give you all the support that you need. In particular, as I look around the state of our stadia, I'm scandalized. I think we need to change that. Last time when the deputy minister came here and we talked about a budget for the rehabilitation, he talked about what? Railway. Some concept which was not known to us. So you are going to need a lot of help from your colleagues there. I hope that this house will give you the support that you need, being a colleague, and we all will support you. Thank you.
All right, so a lot of advice coming in for Nielante van der Poel there. You know, let's see how it goes for him. He's got just 10 months to the election to work at the ministry and change things. I don't know how much, you know, impact he can be able to make.
Does he actually have 10 months? I mean, I don't think he has 10 months. And well, in any case, if he ends on 10 months and, you know, we go into the next regime and he's not giving another opportunity, or he's not allowed to stay on, then essentially just as 10 months, his stay will be just as short as the others.
It's pretty tight, but let's see how it goes. We'll be doing all of the assessments here. Trust us to do that. Well, let's switch to some football now, because the Professional Footballers Association of Ghana has been educating players of Liberty Professionals on a pension scheme policy. Now, the PFAG is a welfare body which was established here in Ghana by ex-Ghana international Tony Baffo to oversee the welfare of active and retired players. The squad visited Liberty Professionals earlier today, and they've been speaking to the players about the pension scheme.
About the PFAG, Professional Football Association of Ghana. Tony Baffo is the founder. I'm the vice president. Came here with Augustine Ayinfo. I think that we all know what is happening to some of our local players in terms of after playing football. You see some of them struggling. So we have this pension scheme that and an insurance that goes for the players. So we came here this morning to educate them on that. So seeing us here this morning, that's why we're here.
Obviously, it's not just going to be about Liberty. You extend it to the other clubs.
Of course, Tony was in Takrady, I think, last week to do the same thing. We have met some of the teams, but gradually, we'll meet all the teams. It's not only Liberty, it's all the local clubs.
You have the experience. How important is this for some of these young players?
Well, I wish my playing days when I was playing for Accra Suffolk, I have, I mean, ex-players or an association who we speak on our behalf, but we couldn't have that time. So, I mean.
All right, let's switch to the English Premier League, where one of the buys for Manchester United ahead of the start of this season, Memphis Depay, has been speaking about how he's struggled and the reasons why.